Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Monday Q&A. So let's do it. First question. Hi Jason, does a large calorie deficit increase the likelihood of developing injuries? Short answer, yes. Now I'm not going to get into a super long answer, but there's a couple reasons for this. Number one, calorie deficit means your body isn't getting quite enough energy, not quite enough building blocks. A lot of your anabolic hormones could go down just a little bit. A lot of those hormones that impact things like connective tissue recovery, joint recovery, just recovery in general. So if these things aren't recovering to their fullest extent and you're still training hard due to both hormones and building blocks and overall energy, you are at a slightly higher chance of injury. And the larger the deficit, the worse it can be. And on top of that, you lose motivation, you lose focus. And a lot of times when you're in the gym and you're training, you get real far into a session, you're losing your motivation. Your body, when you're in a calorie deficit, has things where it wants you to do less activity. It wants you to be less motivated to do anything, whether it's work or working out. It doesn't want you doing a lot. It wants to conserve energy to keep you from starving. So you'll lose focus easier when you're training. You lose focus easier when you're training really, really hard. Your form breaks down, and you've already got possibly connective tissue or soft tissue that isn't recovering quite as well as you would like, and bam, you snap something. So it is something to be aware of. You do need to be careful, be very careful of injuries and listening to your body, knowing how far you can push yourself when you're in a large calorie deficit. It goes back to the question in the first one of you need to be very careful with how hard you push yourself when you're in a calorie deficit. All right, next question. Strictly speaking, do endurance athletes require rest days in the same way that strength-based athletes do? You have mentioned in a recent video that the human body is more adapted to endurance training and requires more of it. So is more or less rest necessary given adequate caloric intake? It's not that you necessarily need more rest. I've known endurance athletes who can pretty much run a marathon every day, at least several days in a row. But other than extreme circumstances, I don't recommend that anybody train every single day beyond very short periods of time when you have a good reason to do it. So take at least one day off for most people, unless it's very low impact. Like I don't take days off because I need the extra energy turnover. So I do cardio every day, but my cardio is very, very low impact. It's on my bike, my recumbent bike, and it's low intensity. But if you're doing anything to where you start noticing connective tissue even getting sore doing your cardio, you need to start taking days off. But for most people, 6 days a week will probably cut it, other than very, very low intensity cardio. And again, something on a bike to where you know you're not beating up your knees and your ankles and things like that, because connective tissue and joints need some downtime to heal. And that should be your biggest concern there for even your endurance work, is making sure that they're adequately recovered. And if they hurt a bit, take a day off. Not a big deal. All right, next question. Why do you only do close grip bench in your training regimen? And how do you know what numbers to try in a meet if you never do regular bench? I'm probably not going to bring my bench out a whole lot for the meet, so I don't expect it to go up very much, and I'll do that as the meet gets closer. My reason for it is I, just like other guys I've noticed who have the very, very wide collarbone, something people notice when they do meet me in person that people don't notice here. I am probably about 8 inches wider than I look on video. So when people meet me, they're shocked at how wide my collarbone and things are up close in person. And for me, just like other guys who seem to have a similar bone structure, I'll name a couple of very serious lifters, Paul Carter, and then the Big Russian KK. Both bench press even in competition with a close grip. And they train in a close grip, and they both notice it. It's just easier. They seem to be less prone to injuries doing that. Their shoulders feel better. Their insertions for their pecs feel better. They don't get that inflammation and things that you get from the wider benching, and it lets you bench more frequently with more volume. And so that's the reason I do it personally, is that I don't get as much inflammation. I can get away with benching a lot more often, more heavy, without really running into those recovery issues for things like my rotator cuffs, my pec insertions, my shoulders, things like that. So that is the reason I do it. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 3.